So you had the Michael Jackson impersonator who was choked out on the New York City subway system and died. And of course, you have the usual suspects screaming for protests, for riots, for black men. Because we all know that if the races had been reversed, if the shoe had been on the other foot, the calls, the vociferous calls from the squad would not have the same rhetoric, volume, or vitriol within them. But regardless of that, the question is not whether or not the people, including a black man, by the way, who held this individual down are responsible for the death, because those who are truly guilty are the Soros DAs of these leftist cities that are dissolving in front of our eyes the American civic union, the fabric which holds society together. Every time that somebody gets arrested and they release them without charges because they want less incarceration, when they release violent criminals, when they don't hold those responsible for shoplifting, the destruction of stores, for raising prices in the inner cities, as everybody has to collectively pay for the theft, or the shop just picks up and goes, as has happened with Walmart, for example, in Portland and Chicago. They're jettisoning these money-losing operations, which are obviously being influenced to a great degree by the fact that shoplifting has essentially been decriminalized because they don't prosecute it. And then you have the police. They go ahead, they arrest all these people, they put them in front of the DA. The DA just releases them. They think that they're doing the public good. Then they see the same guy out on the street the next day. Do you think that they're going to feel incentivized to continue to bring people in, to put their life at risk? Not to mention the fact that if they so much as move a hair in the wrong place on these people's, these criminals' heads, the DA will bring charges against them and make their life a living hell. The simple fact is, show me the incentives and I'll show you the results, because it's easily predictable. And that is why these Soros DAs are destroying, and I mean that in the literal sense, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. There's no repercussions for criminal activity. So those who are predisposed to engage in such behavior will continue down this path. And when you don't remove violent criminals from society, you embolden those who are unsure if they want to get involved with such. Maybe they consider it easy money, or maybe they think that it's going to give them street creds and egoic importance in the eyes of other people if they are taking on such activities that give them notoriety. All of America is falling apart because we don't employ law and order. So the fact that individuals on the New York City subway decided to pin this man down, and as I stated previously, included in that was a black man. So you don't think that 3 individuals in a cab full of people who are not moving to help this person, who's been arrested, by the way, 42 times and re-released by these DAs, including for assaulting a 67-year-old woman. This is not somebody that should be out on the streets. If you are doing that, if you are a repeated criminal, if you are assaulting people, if you are doing the same that you do to a 67-year-old woman, I believe that I also read that Jordan Neely was responsible for the attack on a 7-year-old girl. You let these people back out onto the streets. Eventually, people take it upon themselves to administer the law when you have predisposed the police to stand back and say, we don't want to have anything to do with this because it's not worth it for us. You are destroying the cities with the centers of power, the DAs being these leftist communists that are seeking to subvert the American system, the American way, and the safety of those who are residing in the city. The natural cohesion which holds society together. They are destroying this. They are eliminating the fabric. They are slicing and cutting it and dicing it and making the predisposition of people that if I dare stand up for what I believe is right, I am going to be the one who is attacked by the DA. And it was the same thing in the Soviet system when they would, according to the Gulag Archipelago, when they would, if you were caught with a knife and you were a political dissident, if you had a gun or something, they would come down on you so hard you'd be sent to the gulags. Whereas with the criminals, with the actual criminals, they had different sentencing because they weren't enemies of the state. This was just common amongst their crime-related occupation. These were tools of the trade, so to speak. So the disparate sentences that were given between these people was vast, and the same thing is taking place today. And this is the same reason that these vitriolic people on the left are calling and condemning those who stood up for themselves, those who tried to protect others in the cab. And maybe it was an unfortunate death that it resulted in. Nobody wants an individual to die, but the point is that the DAs that continue to release these criminals back out onto the streets, that go after the cops, that disincentivize police from doing their job, are the ones who are directly responsible for the uptick, not only in crime, but in terms of the behavior of people that want to take the law into their own hands. The vigilantes, you might want to call them. But I don't even think that's accurate. I think that people are just fed up and that they will stand up. Of course, many people will learn as they get beaten down by the system, by Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice head, who is politicizing the DOJ to go after those who are against abortion, who are merely standing in the way of people entering the abortion clinic and bringing BS charges against them, versus those who are burning down those who clinics of those who attempt to help those and give them another option who want to get abortions. This is the disparity that exists in the United States, and I believe it's intentional. It might be coming from China. It's an effort to subvert the United States, and frankly, it's working. Just take a look at the major cities from Portland, Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco. These things are all on the decline. These cities that used to be the height of living, where everybody wanted to go, and now people are exiting from within them. And that's why you're seeing a collapse in property prices, and the banks are suffering. And that means depositors are suffering as Whole Foods dismisses its lease and moves out of San Francisco, as Nordstrom's does. And T-Mobile just announced today that they were doing the same thing. And it all falls squarely upon the leftists and the DAs that are producing the right environment for this catastrophic destruction of the fabric of America to occur. And frankly, I think they're doing so intentionally.